Hello everybody and welcome to the Scottish Renovation. I'm Harry.
I'm Tom and we're renovating our 200-year-old Scottish farmhouse in the rolling Galloway Hills.
Here's what we got up to recently. When we had the roof completely reslated, we thought, we're going to have to, rip off all the wood and start again, have new trusses and everything, because the amount of leaks that are in this house was crazy. But once we started taking all the slates off and stripping back all the lime plaster and being able to actually see the wood, it was actually really good. And there was only a few places that needed some timber repairs. So we had all those timbers replaced or spliced in. So that's all been done. But as part of the whole roof structure and, to make sure it all complies and everything, we've got to bolt everything. So I've already bolted all of the front side. I've had to put a bolt in each corner of the tie. So we've got the bolts on this side. I haven't done any of the ones on this side yet. So that's my next task. These are the bolts I'm using. So they're from Timco. These are the bolts. I think they're 200 mil. I'd bought these washers to start with, but they don't actually fit over the square bit of the bolt. So I had to then find, I think it was actually Screwfix came to the rescue, to get these ones that fit perfectly over the square. So I put the bolt, then that washer through the wood, then the square washer on the other end, and then the bolt. So I've still got to finish them because what I want to do is grind off the end, then I'll tighten it up with a ratchet just to give it a little bit more, just to nip it up a little bit. So they're all secure on the front. And then I've got to drill and still do all the bolts along the back side, and then also all in the cheese loft. And then anywhere we've put new pieces of wood against old, we've then got to do this. So I've already done it on 2 of them. I've still got 2 more to do here, and I think there's some more around. But basically every 150 millimeters, and like zigzaggy, I have to put another bolt with the washers and everything. So I've done it on 2 of them. I've still got 2 to do there. I think that's it actually for in here. But that's my next job. So I'm going to crack on with that. Time to get drilling. I'm going to drill all the holes first and then go zoop, and then zoop with the bolts. That's a weird sound, but that's what it feels like it should sound like in my head. Now I'm going to go along with my tub of bolts and, one moment, circular washers, put them all through, and do I just do it all at once? I never know what ends up being quicker. Do I do the process of one bolt the whole way, or do I like that? Who knows? The bolts we went for are M12, and then the hole that I've drilled is a 10 mil because you don't want them any wiggle room. You want a really tight hole that it just doesn't, oh no, that sounds weird. You don't just want it to fall through, basically. Although that one did seem very easy. Right, all the bolts are in, all the washers, nuts and everything on. It's now time to grind the excess off so it's not in the way of when I put the insulation in. Yes, it is the next day, and yes, I have had a haircut since filming the last clip. PPE on. Let's see how this goes. That's one side all bolted, grinded, tightened up, done. Now I'm on to doing the exact same over this side and then the whole cheese loft. It's Tom's day off today, so what have you come to help me with?
Some light vacuuming.
Vacuuming. We're essentially going to be vacuuming every square centimetre of the roof because I need to get all of the cobwebs. What do we need to vacuum up, Tom?
Cobwebs, dust, detritus.
Exactly. So that when I do the wood treatment, it doesn't treat the dust, it treats the wood. Since we've got all the insulation up here that I'm going to be using to insulate the eaves, it's actually a very good thing to stand on to get right to the top of the roof. So I think we're going to slowly move them along, and we can each stand on one, each with a hoover, and vacuum. Because I have a big vacuum, Tom now wants a big vacuum. So he's very happy because the other little one wasn't working very well. It was pretty much blowing all the rubbish back in to the house, which wasn't the best. So we're going to unbox this, and then we're going to carry on with vacuuming all of the roof. Right, we've just finished the main section. How was it?
6 hours.
It was 6 hours. I just said, how was it, not how long.
I think 6 hours explains how it was.
Yes, this is true. But yeah, it took that long. And we've only done this part. So we've still got the whole of the cheese loft to do, but I haven't done the bolts in there yet. So I need to do those first and then hoover everything. But I might treat this section first just so it can be vibing, because I think it's 48 hours. I have to leave it before I can put any insulation in. So I might do that first, then go into the cheese loft while this is having its moment. Happy?
Bring it on.
Right, that's all of this main section all hoovered with Tom yesterday. Now, it's over to me. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to spray this section first rather than going to the cheese loft. I'm going to get this one done so it can be vibing. And then once I've done that, once I've sprayed this today, once I've finished spraying this today, I'm going to go into the cheese loft and then do all the bolts, the hoover and everything in there. But then at least this is done. So then once I've finished the cheese loft, and while that spray is kind of, again, vibing, I can start the installation in this section. But I don't want the spray to be going on the windows at all. So I need to mask them up. Right, take two. This is what I thought I had. Don't know where I got this brown paper one from, but I want the ones with the plastic on, because I can't be bothered to be cutting plastic, if I'm honest. Right. So this is the chemical I've gone for. It's a boron wood preservative and everything. Just, it's much less toxic than all the other ones out there. So, but it still does a very good job. So I've got that. I've got my sprayer. I've got an air compressor, but I've not actually got the bit that goes into the air compressor. And then you've only got like that much of a reservoir. So this is 5 litres. So I thought, what are these, 20 litre things? So I've got 2 of these. So it's only 4 lots of that. So it's really not that bad. I think this whole section is probably going to be like 1 1/3 of these. And then I think the other should be enough for the cheese loft, but we'll soon find out. But I've got I've got the chemical. So I've got the wood preservative, and so I've got the wood treatment chemical, got my sprayer, got gloves, got my outfit, mask. I had goggles somewhere, but I don't know where they've gone. Goggles. And my goggles, because I don't want to get it in my eyes. Right, I have my suit on. Does it do up? That's the question. God, that's an awful zip. It does up. This is not the best look ever. But if it keeps me safe, it keeps me safe. The mask. Oh, I always think these look like the Scream things, don't they? Scary. It's a good thing that I've covered up the. It's a good thing I've covered up the windows, because I think anyone driving past and seeing this inside would just call the police. Yeah. Right. Let's get all this crap downstairs. It's the next day. All of the wood treatment in the main section has now been done. It still looks like I've just sprayed it. It still all looks very, very wet. It says 24 to 48 hours until I can start, which is reoccupation, but until I can start doing insulation. But I think it's going to be longer than that, which is a bit annoying. But the floor is still soaking wet. I've left, it looks a bit of a mess at the moment because I don't really want to touch everything until it's had its time. But I'm glad that's done. I've still got the cheese loft to do, but that's not as big, so hopefully that shouldn't take as long.
Harry did not in fact move on to the cheese loft because it was hot and sweaty. So he moved on to preparing the roofs of the barns ready for the new roof trusses coming soon.
We also had lots of lintel work to do. So through here in this bedroom, we had that lintel for this window to change. And that window is an internal window actually. So that's going to be the new entrance hall. And then here's going to be kind of a little walkway into this bedroom. And we want to put a really nice bit of stained glass in that window. So that should let a lot of lovely light come through. And then we've also carried on with this. So the stonework now is both sides are where they need to be, ready to take the lintels. So we've got 2 concrete lintels and a granite lintel. I shall show you the granite lintel. If you follow me. It's currently in my office. What will be my office. It is here. So I picked this up this week. It's a lovely bit of granite. We thought it's going to look a lot better. We were going to do another lintel, like a catnip lintel, and then just clad it with stone. But we thought, just do it right. So we've gone for a lovely bit of granite there. Once we'd done those little bits, it was then on to stripping the roof of the kitchen barn.
As you can see, the roof was in quite the state of disrepair, with many holes letting lots and lots of water through. So it was certainly time to get the slates off and start the whole process of getting our new roof installed. It was so weird to see it without slates on, and the other side we had to just push them off, so we had a lot of clearing up to do as well. But I'm so glad that's pretty much the last bit of demolition we had, and it is now done.
As you would have just seen, we've stripped the roof, and it only took us a day, which was amazing, and I was very happy how fast it came off. We did try to keep as many of the slates as possible, but as soon as we started tapping them, we could just tell pretty much every single, probably about 99%, was just completely delaminating and was just not good for anything. So we've got them in a big pile, and what we're going to do, we can break them up and it's probably good for like around the garden for flower beds and stuff like that. So they're in a big pile to be processed later. But at the moment, it's a very airy kitchen, or what will be our kitchen. It's a bit weird because this has always been a very dark barn, even though there's been, big openings either side. There was only 2 tiny skylights. One was that side and one was that side. So it is rather odd to be in here, especially it's the evening now, and it still be this light in here, which is rather nice.
Harry then moved on to having a site clear up.
Weeds seem to be taking hold everywhere in full force. So I borrowed the telehandler today, and I'm going to move all the new slates out the way and then trim it all and put them back. And the same for the old slates, because they just look like they're getting swallowed at the moment. And I like a tidy site, and this is an add-in to that.
Here's what it looked like before. It literally looked like the slates were being swallowed by the weeds, which was not the vibe we're going for. And given we want to be using them soon, it needed to be tidied up. So as I said, we borrowed the telehandler from our fantastic neighbour Murphy. Thank you again, Murphy. And it was then on to moving all the pallets of slates so that I could then trim it. It was extremely lumpy bumpy where the slates are, so I had to get out and move the forks where they needed to be so they actually fit the pallet. But then the second I started moving again, they decided to move themselves back. So that was a bit of a pain, but I eventually got all the pallets moved. This was the first one. I started on the top because it was the easiest, and then some of the ones where they were buried, it was a bit more annoying to move, but I got it done. I put them all near kind of the wasteland section that we call it, where we've dumped all of the hardcore and everything that came out of the house. As I say, it was so lumpy bumpy, so even just moving them on this bit, I wanted to be as careful as possible. So I was very conscious how much these slates cost. Only one of the pallets decided to actually drop some slates. It was only one slate, but as I was going over the little ridge here, one of the slates on this pallet decided to fall out. So I thought, this pallet needs to go down very quickly. So I just pretty much dumped it where it was and left it there until I had to put it back afterwards. Once I'd moved all the pallets, it was then time to actually start the strimming. I decided to do the strimming in the only half an hour of the whole day where it was absolutely torrential rain. This huge black cloud came over, it got very dark, and as I said, very, very wet. As I had just about finished as well, the sun decided to come out and it started feeling really warm again. Once all the strimming was done, it was then time to put all the slate pallets back where they needed to be, but in a very organised fashion, because I didn't want to stack them this time because it felt very precarious and we have the space, so they don't need to be stacked. So this was me reversing them back. However, again, the slates nearly fell off the telehandler, but it's fine, they're all good, none of them are damaged. Once I'd done this section, it was then time to do the bit right in front of the telehandler, just over there, where we had the old slates and loads of the sandstone flagstones that came out of the kitchen barn when we did the new concrete slab. So that was a bit easier because it was a bit flatter, but that was all done. This is what it looked like when it was all done, nice and tidy and neat, and then the same for everywhere the sandstone flagstones and the old slates were.
Once I'd had my little clear up with all the slates, I wanted to turn our attention to the silver birch. So we planted, I think there's 24 of these, we planted last November with this tree grant that you can get in Dumfries and Galloway. It was me, Tom and his mum that planted them all. And we'd left them kind of a bit bare. And there was a job we still had to do. So Tom's mum came back over and we did it. We had to put this hessian down to try and stop some of the weeds because we didn't want to put black plastic down. So we put the hessian down and then covered it with mulch. So hopefully that should help keep most of the weeds at bay. But at least it looks a lot more professional now and like the job is done compared to how we had left it since we put the trees in.
Because they did look somewhat abandoned and that was not the vibe we were going for. So at least now they look all nice and they've got a very good start to their life and fingers crossed they don't die.
Our plan for next week is to get the remainder of the timber off. So we want to take all of these roof trusses off. I really want to keep though, as well, especially that roof truss at the end, and then behind where Tom is, if he just pans behind him, the other big triangle roof truss right at the top. Want to keep all of those and then try and keep as many of the other ones as well, because all the new roof trusses here, they're going to be just, well, new ones that you don't have on display, but we really want to have some decorative timber. So I'm hoping we take those down, whether we have to splice two together to make it the right length, but then we can at least hopefully get other 3 or 4 lengths along here so that it's not just a straight up ceiling in the kitchen and it has some beams which would look really nice. We also want to focus again back onto lintels and openings. So through here into the bedroom, we want to, so there's another window that needs to go in here that we've not started at all yet. So this is the bathroom here, and this is where we need to put a window. This is actually the size of said window. So it's going to go there. It's going to go, that's the height we want it. So it's going to go here, but it needs to go there because the toilet from the garden room wall comes to about here. And obviously we don't want a toilet with a window into a toilet because that's a bit weird. So there's going to be a bath here and then there'll be kind of the window off to the left. But yeah, as I said, that's the size. So we've got that to completely start. We've also got the lintels in here to put in, which I mentioned earlier. We've got this window over here. We haven't touched this at all yet. It's remaining that size. We just need to change the lintel above because at the moment, well, the front one's granite, which is lovely, but the back one is rotten wood. So again, that needs to be changed to a concrete one. Then coming back from the bedroom into my office again, we've already started putting the opening in for the window that's going to be in my office. However, at present, it's not exactly a finished opening, as you can see. So we need to, well, not me, Kev, our wonderful builder, one of our builders, is going to do all the stonework around it. We've got another granite lintel that we took out from somewhere else that's going to be at the top, and then concrete lintels, and then stone up the rest of it and make it look really nice and lovely, and so that the window can actually go in there. Hopefully as well, if we get all that done, which fingers crossed, it's very weather dependent, and the weather next week is meant to be just torrential. Other than Monday, because Monday we're trying to take the roof off, or all the timbers off. So fingers crossed it's actually okay and it's just lying, because normally it says it's raining, but it won't rain, or vice versa. But if we do get that done, I really want to get the garden room slab all sorted as well. So I want to get the remainder of the hardcore in here up to this level too. Same for the toilet, just around the corner here. And then we've already got all of the wire mesh and everything. So I want to get all that in, the DPM hopefully. We've got to have 2 layers of mesh in here. So we'll have 2 layers of mesh just to make it even stronger. It's going to be kind of a raft foundation. So hopefully we can get that prep done this week as well. Next week, sorry. Fingers crossed. All those plans for next week are very weather dependent. And at present, the weather is looking somewhat wet. So we'll see how that goes. I don't know if I'm being a tad too ambitious for what I've got planned for the week ahead. We'll soon find out. So that's what we've been up to this week and what we've got planned for next week.
We hope you're enjoying the videos. Make sure you hit the subscribe button to follow along on our renovation journey. And if you don't want to miss out on a single video, tap the notification bell and you'll get a notification every Sunday at 6 when we post our videos.
See you later.
Bye.
Bye.